Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. If you don't know who I am, my name is Therese Butler and I'm a Senior VP for our HOA2 board. I'd like to invite you to start today by rising and we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and once again, thank you for coming today. What I would have to say is if you're here today to listen to survey results, that probably means that you actually did complete the survey. And, and for that, we do appreciate it. Something that I told the group this morning is that going way back to the old college days, I remember taking a couple classes in statistics and research methodologies. And in order for a survey to reach a level of statistical significance, in other words, in order to be able to say that these responses are showing a true trend as opposed to, you can't validate those results, you need about a 30 to 35% response rate. What we had in this community was phenomenal. We had almost a 55% response rate, valid response rate on our survey. And I just have to commend all of you for taking the time in completing the survey. What I would also like to add, though, is that this was just phase one, actually completing the survey online. There will be a number of you, and Dave Jones, our Strategic Planning Task Force Committee Chair, will speak to it a little while later, but this is what you're going to see today is raw data. There hasn't been correlation analysis between different questions. There hasn't been a number of different things done that may require further drilling into the information. And in order to do more drilling, that means that Dave and his team may be asking you to help us out again as we conduct different focus groups or whatever the situation may be. So I do ask you to keep that in mind. And with that, I'd like to turn this over to Dave Jones. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Did you all enjoy lunch? It sounds like you did. Okay, I'm just going to quickly go through the agenda. It's a very simple agenda. We're going to have a presentation of the raw survey data. It's as yet unanalyzed because there's a lot of information there that we've got to get out of that survey. We'll be holding all questions, if you could please, until the end of the presentation, and then we'll have a couple of board members, myself, and our presenter today on stage to deal with those questions. After that, we'll go into next steps, because as Therese indicated, this is a part of the process. We're a few steps into it, but we've still got a fair way to go until we can condense all of this into actionable items that drive us to where you think we ought to go. So I'll outline the next steps, and then we'll conclude with a nice little piece. We'll announce the winners of the dining certificates. So hopefully you didn't eat too much for lunch. So it's my pleasure now to introduce our speaker today, and we're very fortunate to have Mr. Kirk with us today, who is the Vice President of FirstService Residential. This is a major homeowner company that do homeowner management and various key projects and tasks for homeowner associations like ourselves. It's not only the largest in Arizona, but it's the largest nationally. I learned that this morning. I should have read the information more clearly before. So we're very fortunate. Kirk participated as other FirstService residential employees did in the design of the survey based on the experience they've had in other communities, and also helped us with the implementation of the survey. And now it's my pleasure to have you listen to Kirk present the raw survey results. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Appreciate that. Very nice introductions. As David mentioned, my name is Kirk Kovieski, Vice President with FirstService Residential. Just want to start right off with you folks. Show of hands of those of you who are so interested in the survey that you're here for the second time today. Okay, down here in the front row. We know what they say about folks who like to sit in the front row, right? Second point I'd like to make is fortunate for you folks. I expended my singing voice at the session earlier today. So any show tunes will not be repeated today. Fortunate for you folks, although I'm trying to work with the events group to have another appearance in a few weeks. That being said, folks, it's a true honor, not only for myself, but for our company to be involved with the SaddleBrooke HOA2, the board, the strategic planning folks, task force that have engaged our company to do this. We manage, as Dave mentioned, we're the largest in Arizona. We manage over 300 homeowners associations, and we do full service management, we do consulting, we do strategic planning, we do surveys, we do a whole number of accounting only type services. And having been in this business for about 10 years, I can unequivocally say that working with these folks over the past, well, let's see, probably 3 months now with the strategic planning and the survey, but about 18 months since we first sat down with some of the board members. It's been a true pleasure. Again, in our world, we see all different, shades of the spectrum, if you will, of folks who work well together. And you are very fortunate in this community to have the types of individuals on your board and on these committees on behalf of you all as the homeowners doing this type of work, because like I said, we see all different ends of the spectrum, and these folks have been more than a pleasure. And it truly is heartfelt when I say it has been an honor working with folks of this caliber and on behalf of your community. So thank you very much for that. I do want to get in to the results. A couple of notes regarding what you'll see and the information I'm going to share with you. First of all, some of you may have tried either printing, perhaps from home, the survey results to get a hard copy, or maybe have even gone to the office in the past week or so since the results have been available. Unfortunately, as much as we love processes and procedures to be absolutely perfect all the time, sometimes there's a glitch. We found out by the way of the survey, the way it was processed for an easy link, for easy presentation on a computer screen, didn't quite translate when it got printed. And in other words, you might have either tried printing it at home or got a copy from the office. It was kind of hard to read. So what we've done is we've changed that. We heard last week from the office, and it was simply a function of trying to get all of the survey data from each question on one page. So what you'll see here today is we have some bar graphs, and then there's some text information. For the link on the website, we wanted all of that information on one page, but when you print it, it doesn't quite work as well as we would like it. So what we've done is Diane in the office, she has kind of the new version, if you will, of a hard copy. So we may in fact have some hard copy here on your way out. And if not, please feel free to stop by the office, contact Scott and Diane and his team to get a much cleaner copy. Okay? So without further ado, let's delve into perhaps our survey. Little reiteration of what Therese mentioned in the beginning, a tremendous survey response. This is very raw data. No analysis has been done yet. We'll throw out a lot of percentages for you, but there has been no analysis, and that's what now the real heavy lifting happens with the strategic planning task force going forward. We had initially 2,860 responses. And you're going to say, well, Kirk, the number on the screen says 2,819. 41 responses were deemed invalid. One of the reasons that we asked for everyone to put in a unit number and a lot number was, number one, so we could make sure that we were managing the number of responses per number of eligible responsees in a home. We didn't want duplicates. We did find some of those. And interestingly enough, I don't know the exact number, but I think there might have been 14 or so responses from HOA1 homeowners. So I don't think anything nefarious going on there, but so 41 responses were deemed invalid. for a final count of 2,819. 54.4% response rate is tremendous. Again, like Therese said, statistical analysis will tell you that you really need at least 30%. In our world, in the HOA management world, having done many, many different surveys of this nature, some much smaller, some even larger, we see an average, and again, the active adult type SaddleBrooke community demographic is a little bit higher presentation or participation. However, we see right around 40% as an average. So 54, 55% is tremendous, and that's vitally, vitally important for the board and for the strategic task force going forward, because while the board's elected and the task force raises their hand, they want to be involved, strategic planning going forward, it's not their plan. Sure, they're homeowners. We don't want to forget that part, and volunteers, by the way. But we need your input. They need your input for the strategic plan going forward, because it is your community. So thank you very much for that response rate. The date that you see on the board, we originally created this survey all the way back in April. So we've been working with this task force just on the survey piece for at least 3 months now. So imagine that if just the survey takes 3 or so months, what the rest of the plan is going to look like. A lot of heavy lifting. And one thing I didn't mention in the morning session, but I do want to mention here, we ended up with 35, 36 questions. We started with probably 200 potential questions. In preparation of setting up this survey, I had sent numerous examples of other surveys that we facilitated from all around the country, similar type communities and similar objectives by a strategic plan. But the type of the questions that we started with were probably about 200 potential questions. And so there was a lot of heavy lifting and a lot of thought process that went down to whittling it down to these questions. Again, was it perfect? Probably not. And one of the questions from earlier, and maybe this is a softball to you all when it comes to Q&A, one of the questions was, were there any questions you didn't ask that in hindsight you might want to ask next time? So there was 1 or 2 responses to that, but again, kudos to the team for getting down to where they got down to. Of course, I'm not going to show you any statistics on the question number 1, which is unit and lot number. But question number 2 was, what was your age group? We found that through this data, the average age at SaddleBrooke is 71. And you can see an overwhelming preponderance age range is between 60 and 79. Question number 3, what is your gender? Interesting tidbit here. About 2 weeks into the survey, we had these figures at about 60% of the respondents were female and 30% were male. So what does that say about, you know, I'm a proud member of the male demographic, and, you know, I think maybe sometimes we're going to, you know, defer to the better half first, and then we'll chime in at a later time. Obviously, the way things shook out at the end of the survey is almost exactly 50-50. Question number 4, how long have you been a homeowner at HOA2? 75% of the respondents have lived in SaddleBrooke for 5 or more years. How many months of the year are you away from HOA2? For example, on vacation, second home, etc. I know this was, we discussed this question at length and how to ask it. You know, how often are you away? And why do you leave? Well, guess what? Those questions weren't necessarily germane to the information that the strategic planning team needs. It's more about how long are you here, and then you'll see the questions go on a little more delving into. But we found that the large number of respondents, 70% of respondents reside in SaddleBrooke for 10 or more months out of the year. That's a large number. Question 6. On a scale of 0 to 10, when in residence at HOA2, how physically active are you? Really no surprise, at least to us here, and I believe the committee, 86% identify themselves as being moderately to very physically active. Very obvious that you folks have a very physically active community. Then question 7, regarding how socially active are you? 76% of the respondents identified themselves as moderately to very socially active. So you all do have a very, very, very active community. Question 8. Please indicate your level of agreement with the following statements. And there are a number of questions here, and most of these surround expansion of the facility. Should we expand space for special interest, or for pickleball, or any number of the amenities and services? So from highest to lowest, these were the rankings. 46% of the respondents indicate that the pickleball space, the courts, need to be increased. 39% indicate expansion of the fitness centers as necessary. 33% indicate that expansion of the group fitness facility is necessary. 26% said that we need more meeting room space. 23% indicate that there's a need for expansion of arts and crafts facilities and space. And then 14% on both dance floor space and Desert View Theater space. Okay. Question 9, if you either agreed or strongly agreed with the responses or the way you answered question 8, please indicate the additional amount that you'd be willing to pay annually in order to facilitate the expansion that you're interested in. 39% of the respondents indicated that they are willing to pay from $51 to $100. A good portion of the respondents said, we understand it's going to cost money to expand. While 68% were willing to pay at least something. So 39%, $50 or more, and at least 68% of the folks said, okay, we understand it's going to cost anywhere, I'm willing to pay from $1 up. Okay. Question 10, when in residence, how many times per month do you use the following? So you'll see here on the graph, if you can see, that overall numbers were somewhat low in terms of, because when you spread it out, right, this is great because there's a lot of things to do. So a vast majority of the respondents do not necessarily use tennis or pickleball courts, arts and crafts, preserve fitness center, or group fitness facility. So the preponderance of the respondents said that the pools are used most often on a regular basis, with Mountain View pool getting the most use. And then 29% of the respondents did indicate that they use the Desert View Fitness Center at least 6 to 16 times per month. So again, a lot of choices here, but the preponderance of respondents say that a lot of it is pools and fitness center. Okay. Question 11, please describe your level of satisfaction with the following. And looking at this, and I probably should have mentioned this in the beginning, and I'll probably reiterate it at the end. Again, having done so many of these different surveys, it's really, really encouraging that as an overall theme to this survey, you folks are very, very happy with what's going on here. If I was to pick a number, I'd say 65 to 75% of the responses were very, very positive. Even when we get into the text responses, you'll see. So again, seeing a broad spectrum of different type of HOAs that we manage across the state and across the country, it's really, really neat to see this type of response, in that folks, by a large majority, are very happy with everything that's going on here at SaddleBrooke 2. So relative to question 11, an overwhelming majority of respondents felt either into neutral, satisfied, or very satisfied. The only notable exception was that 20% of the respondents did say either dissatisfied or very dissatisfied with the number of pickleball courts that we have here at HOA 2. Okay, a little bit about golf courses in the next couple of questions. Question 12, HOA 2 golf courses blank are important to the future, are important to the aesthetics, etc. So over 88% of the respondents indicated that golf courses, were important to the home values and the aesthetics of the community, while 87% indicated that golf courses are important to both the lifestyle and the long-term viability of the HOA. So I'll point this out in advance. You'll see some of the other questions. Even though I might not be a golfer, your overwhelming response will understand how important they are to our community. So question 13 was along the lines of, do you golf? There was about 2,700 of the 2,800 or so folks that did respond to this question. So half of those, 47% of the respondents indicated that they do play golf. 36% of those respondents primarily use the HOA2 golf courses, while 9% of the respondents say that they primarily use the HOA1 golf course. If you do golf at HOA2, do you prefer to play at either Mountain View, Preserve, or both? Well, 56% said I golf at both, 28% prefer Mountain View, and 15% play the Preserve. Now, how do you pay? How do you like to pay when you golf? So if you do golf at HOA2, are you an annual member, punch card, or play as you go? An overwhelming majority of those who do golf, about 67%, are pay as you go players. 20% are annual membership, and 13% are punch card members. Now, I was curious because we wanted to follow up with, okay, now what about if you do prefer HOA1, how do you pay? And again, an overwhelming majority, 63% said I'm a pay-as-you-go player. A smaller percentage, about 30%, that are preferred card member players. And then a very small percentage, about 6%, are actual members over at HOA1. Okay, getting into some of the restaurant questions now. Do you patronize the Mountain View Bistro? 81% of the respondents do indicate that they do patronize the Mountain View Bistro. And if you did answer in the affirmative to that question, I'm sorry, how many times per month do you go? 78% indicate that they go to the bistro at least 1 to 5 times per month. Now the converse, right? If you don't patronize, why don't you? The top three reasons that respondents said we don't go to the Mountain View Bistro. Number one, at 67%, was the food quality. 52% said the service quality, and 51% said the menu. Okay. Now, if you do patronize, what do you like? Please state why, and check all that apply. So the top 3 responses there in terms of the affirmative, why do you patronize the Mountain View Bistro? Convenience was the number 1 answer. 88% said because it's proximity to home. 52% said we go because of the atmosphere. And 39% the cleanliness of the restaurant. One of the reasons we go. Now over to the Preserve Grill. Do you patronize? 72%, yeah, 72% of the respondents. Yes, we do go to the Preserve Grill. If you answered yes, why do you go? This was interesting. Conversely, versus Mountain View, 95% of the responses indicated that they go to the grill. I'm sorry, this is how many times? 1 to 5 times per month? Yeah, I'm sorry. If you answered yes, how many times do you go? 95% said 1 to 5 times per month. This is where I was going to say, please do not. Why do you not patronize the Preserve Grill? The top 3 responses were price at 45%, menu at 41%, and food quality at 34%. Why do you go to the grill? Number 1 response was the atmosphere at 76%. 61% said proximity to home, and 44% noted the service quality. Okay, question 25. Please rank your top 3, 1 being highest. Wanted to make sure we had folks on the right page there. Choices of how you want to be informed about what is going on at HOA2. Really no surprise here. As a matter of fact, I mentioned this earlier. Had I asked Scott and his staff this question in advance, they would have responded with the same way you all responded. So they certainly have the pulse on communication. The top 3 reasons, the top 3 means of communication. E-blasts rated in at highest at 63%. Information on the website was second at 38%. And then the for the record came in at third at 20%. Communication is key, certainly. Question 26. Please rank what you feel are the top 5 most important factors to the future marketability of HOA2. A lot of great information team is taking from this survey, but this is probably one of the most important questions that they could ask. In other words, we're talking about strategic planning, i.e. the future, what's important to you all as homeowners. So the top 5 factors identified as the most important for the future. Interestingly enough, the top 2 really the board and task force and homeowners really don't have any control over. 31% of the folks, scenic views and golf, number 1 and 2 responses. 9% is something that in task force and committees can have an effect on. 29% said that the financial health and continuing the community, and then 27% said the overall appearance of the community is most important for the future marketability. Great question. How safe do you feel? 92%. 92% of you feel that we are safe here at HOA2. That's a great, great thing to know. And a great feeling to have, certainly. Question 28. How many times per year do you attend an event or show at the Desert View Performing Arts Center, right here where we're at today? 58% indicated that they come to 1 to 5 events a year here at the Desert View Theater. And then 19% said that they attend 5 to 10 per year. Question 29. Are you aware of the board's plans to do facility renovations on a rotating basis, probably every 3 years? In other words, the board's plan is do Mountain View and then Desert View and then Preserve and keep that rotating. So it's literally 50-50. Half of the folks said, yes, we're aware of the plans. Half of the folks said, no, we're not aware of the plans. So good thing for the board to know going forward. Please indicate your level of agreement with the following statement. So I'm going to go down and go through each one of these for you because I thought this is important. I mean, it's all important, but I thought this one was especially important. So 95%, and this is from highest to lowest, 95% of the respondents indicate either an agree or strongly agree that maintaining the active adult community is important. And they agree that that is, we should maintain the active adult community lifestyle. 87% either agree or strongly agree that the reciprocal agreement is important with HOA 1. 82% indicate either agree or strongly agree that the HOA should continue to rent out the facilities for revenue generating events. 65% either agree or strongly agree that the ALC guidelines are reasonably enforced. And then 60% of the respondents either agree or strongly agree that the HOA2 board effectively manages the community. So again, back to my earlier point, a lot of positive results to this question specifically, overall theme. So those first 30 questions were the really easy to quantify results, graphs and charts, real pretty. The next set of few questions, not quite so easy to quantify because these are what we would call the open-ended questions. Again, I can't stress enough some great kudos to the strategic planning team that when we, like I said, we started off with about 200 questions potentially that could be used in this survey. I've had communities that we've worked with that have asked upwards of 20 to 25 to 30 open-ended questions. And when you get 2,800 responses, handwritten, either 10 to 50 to 100 characters, and you have to analyze that information, I can tell you, and I have to point her out by name, a woman, fellow homeowner by the name of Sharon Cotter on the Strategic Planning Task Force was tasked with analyzing these results. So every day results would come in, and every day Sharon was updating her segment of analyzing and quantifying these results. And I can tell you a tremendous, tremendous undertaking in doing that. And so the way I'm going to present this information, and this is a little kind of background on how we came up with what we're showing you today. So the lists, we've come up with categories. I say we, I include us all as a team. The Strategic Planning Task Force came up with categories of the comments. In other words, you know, a wide range of different types of comments. And so what Sharon and the rest of the team did is kind of whittle them down into different categories that you'll see in a minute. And then once they were categorized, all responses were read by at least 2 people to assure that everybody's responses were reviewed. Please note that the number of responses don't equal the number total of categories responses because many people mentioned more than one issue and some people didn't comment on the question at all. And of course, part of this process, second analysis is underway, and this information is great information to germane to the plan going forward. What you're going to see here, there's a lot of information, but I want you to focus on one thing, the count. So when I verbalize these responses, I'm going to be pointing out to you in each different category for each question, the largest number of responses for that particular category. So, but what you're also going to see on the screen is an answered percentage, and that's the percent of people who made a comment on that question. Another percent that's going to show the percent of total survey submitted, which includes people that chose not to make a comment. And then the final percentage on the screen will be the percent of total number of people who were eligible to submit a survey. So kind of getting into some minutia there, but what I want to focus on as I present the rest of these questions is the count, the number of response on the comment to each question. So question 31. Please tell us a service or amenity that's not currently provided or is insufficiently provided that you would like to see. Don't expect, I'm having a hard time seeing this, let alone you all sitting out there, but again, I will verbalize. So you'll see the categories for this particular question fell under a number of different things: amenities, sport courts, events, facilities, fitness, HOA management, non-HOA issues that people brought up, the restaurant, the roads, and then overall satisfaction. So in this question, the category of amenities, we had 73 comments regarding walking or biking facilities. So under the amenities, there were 73 comments saying that's probably something that, you know, we don't currently provide that I'd like to see. Under the sport courts, an overwhelming number, 349 comments regarding pickleball. Facilities, 44 comments regarding arts and crafts facilities. Under fitness, the largest number of comments fell under just fitness center in general. We also had dance floor and group facilities there, but the overwhelming number there was under fitness comments. Under HOA management, common area, you know, managing the common area, got about 18 comments. The lifestyle, if you will, of the community, and this is interesting, aging in place. In other words, what are we doing for the aging demographic, and then obviously for the folks coming in, just starting their lives here at SaddleBrooke. There was 23 comments to that effect. Under non-HOA comments, there was 118 comments regarding stores or post office for SaddleBrooke 2, HOA 2. Under the restaurant category, there were 83 comments regarding the Mesquite facility. Under roads, there were 41 comments regarding gated community, being a gated community. And then I love this. The question is, one service or amenity that's not currently provided, however, over 200 folks chose to say, I'm completely satisfied. So that was interesting that, you know, it could have been a negative response, but they all said, you know what, I'm satisfied with what we got going on. Question 32. Relative to question 31, please indicate the additional amount that you'd be willing to pay in order to facilitate the service or amenity that you commented on previously. So 38% of the respondents said, nothing. I don't want to pay anything else. 31% are willing to pay between $1 and $50 annually. 19% said $51 to $100. And then 11% said, I'd be willing to pay over $100. Knock on their door first, she said. Okay, question 33. What is your favorite thing about HOA 2? Again, a number of categories here. I'll read through those really quick. Activities, amenities, the community in general, the environment, events, friends, golf, HOA, lifestyle, restaurant, and then there's some totals. So, going back, what's your favorite thing about HOA 2? Under activities, there was 108 comments regarding my favorite thing is the clubs and groups that we have at HOA 2. Under amenities, one of my favorite things, 157 folks made a comment regarding the fitness center themselves, with about 140 folks making a comment of just, I really like all the facilities that we have. Under the community subject heading, we found, I love this, 320 comments said, my favorite thing is that we live in a friendly community. 320 folks, or 320 comments saying it's a friendly community. And then back to that previous question, also 113 folks made a comment in addition to that, wow, we live in a really safe community. Under the environment, that was a category we came up with. 359 folks said, I absolutely love the views we have here. 28 folks said that we've got a great theater, but we also have a lot of non-theater events. So I like the fact that's my favorite thing here at SaddleBrooke. And then this is cool, 154 folks said my favorite thing is the friends that I have here at SaddleBrooke HOA 2. 232 folks said the golf courses is my favorite thing. And then under HOA governance, HOA in general, 32 folks said that my favorite thing is boards and committees. Although I'm not sure how we can see if those were board members and board family members that commented. So perhaps that's for next survey. Of course I kid because I love. 252 folks said that the lifestyle is my favorite thing. So the overall lifestyle that you all have here at SaddleBrooke is very important. 85 folks made a comment regarding my favorite thing is the restaurants. And then this is great. Under totalities, there were 76 comments categorized as it's all good. So that was a neat one to note. All right, question 34. I said this earlier. Maybe we should have had the least favorite thing first and then gone out on the favorite thing second. But so, question 34. What is your least favorite thing about HOA 2? 100% of the people said, I like everything at HOA 2. Anyone buying that one? Okay. Uncertain as to the message that they were trying to convey, there was about 48 folks made a comment and we couldn't quite quantify it. Under amenities, 57 folks, this goes back to the original, one of the questions earlier, made a comment about the lack of walking opportunities or facilities. 157 folks commented, my least favorite thing is pickleball. Don't know if that's quantified if pickleball is my least favorite or the lack of pickleball is my least favorite, but I guess we can imagine which side that falls on. Under events, maybe not enough. 16 folks made a comment regarding events. Under facilities, a small number of folks, and this was kind of neat. Under facilities, there was only 18 comments at all about my least favorite thing being our facilities, and only 11 of those folks said arts and crafts. So not a big response there. That's, maybe a question, what's my least favorite, but a positive outcome to that response. And then under the HOA, there was a lot of different categories here. 105 comments regarding my least favorite thing are the rules at HOA 2. So 105 folks made comments that I just don't like the rules. Under non-HOA, there was a whole bunch of responses regarding non-HOA questions. And there were 89 responses, folks that made a comment, my least favorite thing are the golf courses. So some interesting information there. And then the final set of information on question 34 about least favorite, interesting. There were about 133 responses that my least favorite thing are the residents or the people. Okay. Don't shoot the messenger. I just share the information. 234 folks made a comment regarding my least favorite thing is the food at the restaurants. 72 folks made a comment about the speed or traffic in the community. 57 folks made a comment regarding RCI or Robeson. And then again, what's your least favorite thing? Like we talked about earlier, there was 153 comments that said I'm totally satisfied. So again, a wide range, a lot of great information for the task force going forward. And then the final question, other suggestions. You can imagine the range of categories here. But again, we tried to kind of keep them along the same lines as the other ones. So there was amenities, facilities, fitness, because there was a lot of comments, we kind of broke that down. HOA again, the lifestyle, restaurants, roads, and then the final aggregate. So under what other suggestions do you have? This one we did break down. Pickleball add, pickleball no. 258 folks said yes, add pickleball. So under amenities, that was the highest number of comments. Thank goodness you guys are here today, because I get a little jinky. So under facilities, additional suggestions relating to the Mesquite facility use. There was about 92 folks responded that, saying additional suggestions regarding the Mesquite. Under fitness, 43 folks said dance floor. Additional suggestions regarding dance floors in the for fitness. Again, you can see a whole wide range of HOA comments. 82. Again, this relates to an earlier question. 82 folks had suggestions regarding dues or fees. I think everybody said we want to pay more. And then lifestyle, we had some respondents there. Again, kind of the aging in place. What are we doing for that demographic going forward? And then finally, last but certainly not least, restaurants and roads. 164 folks just had a general suggestion regarding restaurants. And then to the roads, some more comments, about 25 comments of being gated or non-gated. And then no further suggestions at 208. So their suggestion was that I have no further suggestions. So with that being said, folks, again, I can't underemphasize how important it is, and thank you on behalf of being engaged with the board and the strategic planning task force in this endeavor. This type of response rate makes our part of the process very easy. There's a lot of work involved, certainly, but we like work. And so, again, thank you very much. And please, on behalf of the task force and the board and everybody involved, how about a big round of applause for those folks as well?
Okay, I'm inviting a couple of the board members to join me and Kirk on stage. And this is the question session. So if you've got questions, and please restrict yourself to questions, not sort of editorial comments at this point. We'll do our best to answer the questions, bearing in mind that we're into the process. We've not finished the process. And in fact, the bulk of the analytical work and the formal conclusions and action plans are yet to take place. So without more ado, if you have questions, I'll try to flag you down and we'll do our best to hear you. Questions? Great question. If I can just hold it just a second, and if there are other questions, we'll take those, and then I'll come back and talk through the next steps.
Well, no question.
Guess you're on, Dave. The question, yes, the gentleman asked about, there was no question about having a bulletin board where residents could advertise things they have for sale or services. You're right, that was not part of the question. I don't know that that was even part of any of the suggestions we got, but it's certainly something that we'll ask the strategic plan task force to look at. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, go ahead.
It's a good question. If you look at the question 35, which is other suggestions, in other words, if there's something that's really important to you that we've not asked you to comment on, would you let us know? We had 3 comments on meal delivery. And that's as far as I can go right now, because in other words, we didn't have much.
Any other questions?
Yes, please. Yes, I understand completely. Yep. Yep. In fact, the first gentleman asked about next steps. Your comment is a wonderful segue into next steps. So if there are no questions, I'll get into next. There's one more question, then we'll get into next steps and deal with your specific comment. Yes, please.
The question is, were there any noteworthy questions in the first session that we could share now? And I can't.
There was a couple. One I can think of is, did we as the board, were we surprised by responses in one direction, one way or the other?
And then there was one about, along those same lines, were we surprised that approximately 30% of the residents were snowbirds, and we're not. Were we surprised about some of the negative comments? And I responded that I was not surprised about the pickleball comments. I would have been surprised had we not gotten those. But the other thing, on a positive note, generally speaking, I think we were all pleased by the fact that, yes, we do have some challenges here in our community, but overall, the residents seem to be pretty positive and happy, and it's our responsibilities now to build on that. And I think Dave will fill in on the next steps in the process.
Yes, please. Actually, HOA1 is doing strategic planning. They have formulated a team. In fact, I thought so. Welcome, Tim. Sat at the back is the leader of their strategic planning activity. So we invited him to attend today so he could get firsthand information on what we're doing. We have met, we are exchanging information and ideas, and we'll continue that process as we move forward. I don't know, Tim, if you want to add anything or if that's okay. Okay, I'm going to move us into next steps now. And as a segue, I'm going to come back just a quick moment to your comment about some of this information. Because of the survey, you're automatically restricted in how much depth you can get, and therefore how much definition of a specific opportunity or an issue or a threat or whatever. And part of the process moving forward on some of these areas will be to just do that exactly. We will be further involving you good folks. So you gave us your 20 minutes of effort on the survey, and we really appreciate that. There's probably a little bit more effort required as we identify issues where we need to dive into the detail, where we need more information, we don't have all the answers. We'll be forming, whether it's a focus group, a study group, whether we ask the board to pay for the services of an outside consultant to lead the effort because we just don't have the appropriate skill to get to what's the real nugget inside the comment that will help us all appreciate that this community's getting even better. So that's part of the next steps. I just want to also stress that whilst the survey was a critically important element of formulating a strategic plan, it's one of several inputs that the strategic planning task force has to be aware of and has to integrate into the overall plan. For example, for several years, we've had excellent work done on transition planning. That's probably going to occur within the time frame of the strategic plan because I use the word long-term strategic plan, and we've been transition planning for 7, 8, 9 years to my knowledge. So transition planning, what's important there needs to be incorporated into the strategic plan. We do financial planning on a long-term scale. 5-year plus plans. That information has to be integrated so it's consistent, coherent, and it all drives us towards where we ought to go. We also had a focus group effort last year that dealt with space use. Excuse me, it's there somewhere. Space utilization. We have to incorporate those findings, and there's other information from the periphery of SaddleBrooke. What's going on out there that's going to really impact us over the duration of a long-term strategic plan. So we have to build that into the plan. The task force right now is heavily involved in analyzing all your wonderful input. So thank you from the bottom of my sleepless heart for all the work you've given us. No, seriously, it's wonderful stuff. We now really have to get into it, and we have to understand not the words, the meaning. And that's where we're putting our effort right now. Part of that will be to refresh and invigorate our vision and mission for the community. If you don't know where you're supposed to be going, how can you put a strategic plan together to get you there? So that's critically important. And over the next several weeks, it may take up to 2 months, the task force will be formulating its ideas, submitting those to the board on vision and mission. And when the board's comfortable, I'm sure there'll be an opportunity then for you good folks to get involved again with your comments and your upgrade, because where we need to go is critical in how we deploy the resources through the strategic plan to get us there. Because the old saying, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. Well, that's not going to be good enough with we've got good resources, but like everyone, they're limited resources. So we have to get the biggest bang for the buck. So moving forward, there will be the need to involve more of you good folks in study groups, focus groups. We'll probably be considering heavily the use of external consultant or consultants. We don't want to spend our money foolishly, but we do want to make sure we're doing the very best we can, because this is probably the best single opportunity we've had as a community to really influence where we go from here. You'll also see us trying to go after what I call low-hanging fruit. Some of the suggestions you good folks put forward as part of the survey can be rather readily incorporated into next year's goals and objectives that the staff will be developing under the board's guidance and under Scott's guidance for implementation next year. So you'll be able to see some early results from the survey effort as we piggyback on ongoing initiatives that the staff and the board have identified as important. Our input into that will be probably to validate them based on your comments and to accelerate them based on your comments again. So that's where we're headed. We've got a ways to go. Probably by year end, you'll see an outline of what the strategic plan final report will look like. You will not see the final report. We've got more work to do. We've got the study groups, focus groups. We've got to dig into these. We've got to make sure we're pressing the right buttons if we're going to get the right response. But at least we'll be able to outline what we're thinking, where we're headed, how we think we're going to get there, but not give you chapter and verse on all the details. That will emerge as a consequence of the results emerging from the focus groups, study groups, and the continuing efforts of the strategic planning task force. So that's where we're headed. I'd like to conclude with the winners of the 5 dining certificates that we said we'd award to folks who participated in the survey. You'll be pleased to know that we had a good turnout this morning. There wasn't a single winner in the auditorium at that point in time. And I would further ask that if you are a winner, make some noise. Let's have some fun. So let's see who the winners are. And by the way, just to let you know how we got to the winners, we asked for your unit and lot number at the beginning, and we said we'd protect the privacy of that. We used it to validate that it was a good survey, and you heard Kirk comment on a few exceptions that we had. And we also use that with a random number generation program to go through and select the winners. So that was the fairest way we could think of doing it. And that was the value of having unit and lot number. So without more ado, I did this morning and no one put their hand up. Unit 137. Okay. Well, just making sure you're interested. Okay. Unit 31, lot 41, Dennis and Peggy Higgins. Oh, okay. Unit 49, lot 84, Fred and Jean Wrighton. Okay, all of these have sold their houses and left, by the way. So. Okay, Unit 28, Lot 34, Bob and Phyllis Kielser. Unit 43, Lot 72, Steve and Kathy Rumsey. Oh, I was so excited for a moment. But it was someone waking up from nodding off. So it was, okay. Unit 42, Lot 93, Gerald and Lorraine Schaefer. Whee! No, okay. Well, the good news is that these are real winners. We won't change them. You don't have to be present to win. So that is good. These will be posted on the website, and we'll make sure that the gift certificates, those that we haven't used, the gift certificates will be available at the admin building. So we'll put those details on. So if you recognize someone who may have been a friend or a neighbor, and you can let them know, they'll shortly see these appearing on the website. So I think that concludes. Oh, excuse me, we've got a hand up there. We appreciate your comments. Trust us. Just because it's a strategic plan, I did mention the magic phrase, low-hanging fruit. Let's see what emerges. And then we'll take your comment again after we've had a chance to go through that exercise. That's my commitment to you. Okay?
And then Dave, before we finish, there was one thing I forgot to mention when I kicked off this afternoon session, and that is that for the afternoon session, we are streaming this via YouTube. The HOA has its own YouTube account these days. So individuals who could not be here today are able to attend from a long distance standpoint. In addition, we will be leaving it out there for individuals to be able to look at least for a couple weeks. So if you have friends, neighbors who are either away or who are on vacation and could not attend either this morning or this afternoon's session, just remind them that there is a way to view it. And if they have any questions, they can check it out via the HOA2 website, or just give Diane Flores a call, and she'll be able to help them with that. The other thing I would like to comment is that, as Kirk mentioned, Sharon Cotter so diligently went through all of those survey responses as they were coming up to try and figure out what are categories of qualitative responses versus the quantitative ones. And once she had developed those categories, there were 2 people on the task force who went through every single comment. And if there was 1 or 5, it didn't matter per a response. Those individuals then put those responses into those specific categories. And so I'd really like to thank both Dave Jones and Candy Armstrong, who took care of that for us. That was a tremendous amount of work. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. Thank you. And in fact, if you wait a little while, the funniest comments will appear in a book. Oh, no, it's okay. Okay, we're done. Thanks so much, folks, for taking the effort to attend today. We'll be in touch.